Welcome to my show. I'm a guest here. His name is Jeff Rothenberg. Mr. Jeff, how are you doing, sir?
Hey, I'm doing really good. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
And also, thank you so much for the time and the opportunity. Firstly, you are a life and career coach. Can you please, Mr. Jeff, discuss more about yourself and how you are doing currently now, Mr. Jeff?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I spent 15 years in corporate America building early stage tech companies, operations and sales teams. So I've always been a people leader. I've always been a coach in my corporate career. And last year, I made the transition to become a full-time life and career coach, really kind of leaning into my strengths and starting my own business. And what I do in my coaching practice is I work with a lot of people who are feeling really stuck, lacking confidence, unclear of their path forward with their career. They might have been working in their job for 10, 15, 20 years and feel like it no longer fits them, but aren't sure of how to move to something that is more meaningful for them. But I've always been a people leader, a talent developer, coaching individuals, hiring people, giving people opportunities, and promoting other people. And then last year, I transitioned to a full-time life and career coach to really try and lean into my strengths. If you ask me what's your favorite part of working, in tech companies, it was the people development side of it. It was coaching people. It was giving people opportunities and helping them get better as individuals in their career. And so I pivoted into full-time life and career coaching, really to kind of lean into my strengths. And at a really high level, what I do in my practice is I work with a lot of people who are coming to me feeling very unconfident with themselves. They're feeling very stuck in their careers. They may have had a setback where they got laid off or they got fired, or they're just feeling very unfulfilled in their work and they want to do something different, but they don't know. They're confused and they're lost and they don't know how to make that change, right? And so oftentimes people have been settling for being in this role for a long time where they're unhappy. And so a lot of what I do is I help people kind of discover themselves in a lot of ways. And so I use a lot of different assessment tools to help them understand how are you actually wired? What gives you energy? What drains energy from you? What are your strengths? I really believe in strengths-based coaching, right? We all have weaknesses. Let's not worry about those. Let's focus on what your God-given strengths were. And then let's figure out, based on how you're wired and what your strengths are, what are some viable career paths that you may have never considered that are aligned with who you actually are? And we go through this process of discovery, and it's incredibly eye-opening for people. They gain confidence, they gain clarity, and really then I help them build a strategy and an execution plan on once we identify some new career paths or some new ways that they want to kind of pursue. We begin to build a strategy on how do we actually accomplish that goal of getting that job. So it could be interview prep, resume work, networking strategies. I call it prototyping, life design prototyping, where I actually have them do informational interviews with people that are doing the jobs that they're interested in, or doing a half day ride along with the people to understand, do they actually like the work, right? Are they fulfilled with the work that they're trying to pursue? And then we help them execute on finding meaningful work all the way till them landing that job wherever they want to be. So I work with a lot of people that are kind of stuck in their career, helping them with career transition support and life coaching in terms of confidence building.
Thank you so much for the beautiful insights, Mr. Jeff. To build a career is not easy. It is really, really tough, most
Mhm.
especially if you are really, really confused on where to actually start. And that is why I love the area you said that strength is one of the places that one is going to work on to bring out those strengths and use it as a source for one to create a career, whether it's getting a job or building something that can actually be impacted in the society at large. I sincerely appreciate you. And also from the experience you've had as a life and career coach, Mr. Jeff, have you written any book or do you plan to write any books in the coming future, Mr. Jeff?
Yeah, absolutely. I have not written a book yet. I have an ebook that's really tailored towards helping men with dating advice. And I've also written an ebook on how to navigate the job market, because that's a lot of how I help people with their career search. So two ebooks, one was 70 pages, the other was I think 45 pages. The goal is to write a book someday, but right now I'm just really focused on building my coaching business and helping as many people as I possibly can.
Exactly. There is nothing more beautiful than actually doing what one wants and actually building something that will impact the society at large. Mr. Jeff, I would like to drive to the point of barriers because there are a lot of barriers that stop people from growing into the best version of themselves. The barrier could be past issues. The area should be could be their childhood time. It could be anything, but what do you think are some of the biggest internal barriers that stop people from growing into the best version of themselves, even when they deeply want change, Mr. Jeff?
It's a great question. I would say I see three things over and over in my practice. And I would say the first is the fear of the unknown. The unknown can be really scary, and people will stay in a career that's slowly draining them for years because the alternative feels overwhelming to even think about. You know, it's kind of the devil, right? Where the uncertainty alone is enough to keep a lot of people frozen in their careers. So fear of the unknown. I would say the second is a comparison trap. We live in this world of constant comparison. You know, you're scrolling LinkedIn, you're watching everyone announce promotions and new roles, and you're sitting there thinking, what's wrong with me? I haven't accomplished that. And I'll be honest, I deal with this too. You know, there have been times where my social media platform of choice is X or Twitter, and I have to take a 2 week break from it because I'm beginning to compare myself to everyone posting their wins, and it feels unhealthy for me. And so I need to take a social media break. And I had felt like I hadn't accomplished enough myself. And so, you know, it's important to understand that with social media, that's everyone's highlight reel. And so I remind my clients all the time not to compare themselves to that and to limit that. And then I would say the third one is really the story you tell yourself about who you are. So, you know, it's like saying, I'm not the type of person who takes risks, or, you know, I don't know what else I could do, or something else that kind of puts you down. Those stories become a prison, and most of the time they're often written by someone else, or some past memory that is no longer relevant to who you are today. It could be your parents, it could be your industry, your culture, but not necessarily you. And so I think the biggest barrier isn't necessarily external. It's the belief that you're actually stuck in life. Because once you stop kind of believing that, you stop looking for that door and you start looking internally for yourself and how you can improve.
Thank you so much for the insights, Mr. Jeff, because there are a lot of things, as you've said, there are a lot of barriers that actually affects one, and you said it. And one of the critical one is that social media, to be honest with you, Mr. Jeff, because in our time today, there is no way we won't go through our phones. It's just something that is now in norms. And following those
Mhm.
trends make us to be in a position to give ourselves some unnecessary questions. And that is why we need to stand our ground and to understand ourselves more better and know the trajectory we want to move on to actually become more better in the life we find ourselves. So I sincerely appreciate you for those insights, Mr. Jeff. And also, Mr. Jeff, I just want to drive to the point of difference because there is a big difference when someone is actually the best version of themselves shaped by fear, pressure, or expectation, and there is also which are aligned with their true value and purpose, Mr. Jeff. So, how do you think listeners can try their best to identify the difference between a version of themselves shaped by fear, pressure, or expectations, and a version that is more aligned with their true values and purpose, Mr. Jeff?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. And I hear this from clients all the time. They'll say something like, nothing's wrong, but also nothing feels right either. Or, I should be grateful for my job, but I hate what I do. And I think it's that word should that is usually the biggest clue for me. And, when you hear yourself saying, I should a lot, in my experience, that's usually someone else's voice. It could be your parents, it could be your industry, it could be the version of success that was handed to you. And there's this concept called ikigai. It's a Japanese concept where it's essentially finding the intersection of like what you're good at, what you love, what the world needs, and what you can actually be paid for. And I help my clients work through that in our work together. And I think most people have really optimized for like one or two of those things, right? And it's usually money. And sometimes it's like, what are you good at? Yet they've completely ignored whether they actually love the work. And I think that's why you get people who are, as I would describe, successful on paper, but miserable on the inside. And that is part of my clientele I work with. And in my coaching business, as I mentioned, we do this deep discovery where we do strength based assessments, we do values work, and we really understand how my clients are wired. And what usually happens is people realize that they've been really swimming upstream for years, fighting against their natural current, kind of their naturally how they're wired, their strengths. And when you finally figure out, who you actually are and you start swimming downstream with the current, everything gets easier. It's not easy in life, right? But it gets easier. And so I think that version is shaped by fear, and fear feels really heavy. It feels like an obligation. And I think the version that's aligned with who you actually are actually feels like energy. It feels easy. You're in your flow state and you know the difference. And, I think that oftentimes is like probably what you've always been known, but you just have been afraid to trust it. And so that's what I see a lot in the work that I do.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jeff. It is so much beautiful for us to understand who we truly are. It gives us one of the flow that we can actually be in the position to feel more secured and also know what to do at the right moment because we know who we really are and we know what to do at the right moment to help us fulfill and also create life that are more fulfilled in the life we find ourselves. Getting that trajectory can help us to beat every single triumphs that we think could be more difficult. Fear, pressure, expectation, social media influence, and other things that can help us actually lift those things up if we understand ourselves better. It is a very beautiful and profound impact. And also, I'm glad you are using that experience for your clients as well. And also, I would like to drive to the point of leaders, mentors, and also coaches, just like you are doing today. How do you think you guys can try to create environments that genuinely help people grow rather than just push them to perform, Mr. Jeff?
Yeah, yeah, it's a great question again. So one of my core leadership philosophies, and again, I spent 15 years as a leader, so I've built teams, 100+ person teams. I've managed over 1,000 people in my career, and so I've had the opportunity to really understand like what it takes to be a great leader, and how do you motivate people, and how do you build great cultures. But one of my core philosophies came from this woman named Kim Scott. She wrote this book. She was an executive at Google, and she wrote this book called Radical Candor. And it's really simple. It's that you have to care deeply about the people that you manage first. That's the price of entry. You really have to give a damn about people as humans, not just employees, not just as clients, but as people. And once you build that trust, once people know that you actually like care about them, like you take the time to tell me about your family, tell me about your kids, like let's talk about your growth, let's talk about your development, like show them that you actually want to see them be successful. That gives you the permission as a leader to then have that relationship with them where you can challenge them directly. And that's the second part of radical candor, is challenging people directly. And that's huge with leadership, right? Is once you have that core baseline of trust and care where people feel that realness, that genuineness, you can challenge people directly by going at them and saying, hey, what you did right there, I need more from you. That's not okay, you know? And that's the art of leadership is having difficult conversations with people and pushing people because you have that baseline of care. And so that's how you get results. That's how you make people better because people want guidance. Number one thing I've learned in coaching and mentoring people is everyone wants guidance. Everyone wants to be better. I want to be better. I'm constantly asking my clients for feedback on things I could be doing better. And so that guidance piece is huge, driven by caring deeply about people, but challenging people directly. And I think that's, you know, a lot of mistakes that leaders and coaches make is they go straight into pushing without building the relationships first. Or they're all buddy buddy and warmth and let's be friends with no challenging. And you get run over as a leader. And the magic is actually both. I'm going to root for you. I'm going to cheer you on. I'm going to motivate you, but I'm going to hold you accountable because I think you can be great. And I'm not going to let you settle for anything less than greatness. And so at the end of the day, those are kind of my core beliefs around this.
I sincerely appreciate you. It goes back, now we know that it goes back to trust and also the way we build our relationship. And you said it, it
Yeah.
depends on the way we build the relationship. As you said, not a
Mhm.
body type of relationship. There is a way
Yeah.
the relationship will be built. Leadership
Mhm.
sometimes could be difficult, but there are just little things we need to understand in the perspective when we want to lead people. When we understand these little things and we implement it well, it will be very easy, as you've said, for us to actually give them the direction they need, and they will actually follow
Mhm.
through because the relationship is there, the trust has been there, and things has been built as well to make things more better. That is what we need as a leader. When we get to that stage, we thrive. And that is what every single person usually want to build upon. And I sincerely appreciate you for bringing
Yeah.
out that insight for every single one to also listen as well. And also, I would just like to dive to people who are also going to be listening to this episode and also areas that you also think whether you think they can still become more than what life is has been so far. What do you think you want them to remember about growth, possibility, and also trying to becoming what they want to be in the coming future, Mr. Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you you have to find a way to believe in yourself. And I know that there are times where it's hard to believe like I can grow and I can get better. A lot of people I work with, they lack confidence in themselves and their career. They've been kind of beat down by relationships, by the world, by their career. And it goes back to that fear of like fear can create paralysis where it's just people are just they're frozen and they don't move. And one of the things that I work with my coaching clients is this framework that I developed called the plus one minus one framework, which is really around the basis of, we think that, you know, growth has to be these massive leaps, right? Or we compare ourselves to people that are growing so much, but growth really needs to be really small. And so I work with my clients on, how many plus one moments can you have in your life, throughout your day versus minus one moments. So a plus one moment might be, hey, I'm going to actually have the conversation that I've been avoiding for the last week that I need to have with someone. It might be, hey, I'm going to actually write the email that I've been meaning to write that I've been putting off for a long time. A plus one might be, hey, I know I need to get back in the gym and I'm going to put my shoes on and I'm going to just start walking towards the gym. Those are all plus one moves versus
Mm,
minus one would be kind of negative things that actually pull you away from your mission, from your goal, from the things that you want to do in your life. And so I think it's about getting 1% better every single day, making small, tiny movements forward can really go a long ways. There's this, I keep on going back. I love Japanese wisdom and whatnot, but there's this word called Kaizen. which is really focused on continuous improvement. And that's one of my core philosophies with my life and with the clients that I have is just you just have to be striving to get a little bit better, just continuously improve. And that has a compounding effect over time when you just get a little bit better each day, each week, each month. You'll be surprised with the progress that you make over the course of 6 months, 12 months, 2 years. And so just keep on leaning into small, continuous growth opportunities for yourself. And you're just gonna shock yourself with the amount of change that you can have in your life. And it doesn't have to be something that's overwhelming. So that's just kind of a couple thoughts that I have on the growth part.
Thank you so much. You actually even make people who actually want to start moving forward to understand themselves better, to be in the position to understand that no matter where we want to put ourselves into, we have to try our best to make sure it's something we are always getting more better and also learning more from every single day. Because constant learning is always the key to growth and also success as well. We have to be in the position whereby these things we are actually putting in place are actually being learned every single day, because despite how we are in life, if we are actually doing several things or several activities in our life, there will always be ups and downs, and there will also be things that will also actually learn along the way, which gives us more maturity in the journey and also the career we are building as well. Mr. Jeff, there is also a question I normally ask during the end of the show. From our forefathers, from our ancestors, there are a lot of beautiful things that do exist during our forefathers' time that is missing in our time today. If there is anyone or anything you would like to bring back to our time today, Mr. Jeff, what do you think that thing will be, sir?
Yeah, there has been a ton of wisdom in the past from our forefathers. I think one of the you know one of the quotes that I really like a lot is I think it was Benjamin Franklin. Um, no, I'm sorry, it wasn't Benjamin Franklin. It was one of I'm sorry, it was Teddy Roosevelt. He talks about being in the arena, right? Being in the arena of life, right? Life is messy. We think that success is up and to the right, but success really looks like up, down a bunch, sideways, down, up again, right? And it's full of setbacks, it's full of challenges. But I just encourage people to take action. Right? It's one thing to listen to this podcast. It's one thing to read a bunch of books. You see behind me, I've got all these books. None of that matters if you're unwilling to take action. Action is the antidote to anxiety in life. Okay. So we all have things that we're anxious about, but just take one step forward and take action. Celebrate yourself being in the arena doing. You're going to make mistakes, right? You're going to get embarrassed, right? But you're in the arena of life. You're doing, you're building, you're creating, you're creating positive energy and momentum into the world, right? And so celebrate being in the arena, put in the work, put in the action, and good things are going to happen from that. And so I go back to that quote of just celebrating being in the arena of life. Don't be on the sidelines. Get involved, get in the arena, get better.
Thank you so much. We are not going to get what we want if we do not take action. Action is one of the greatest source for us to actually start to do what we do know is the best for us to grow. So when we take action, and as we said earlier, there is a difference by listening or listening to a podcast or reading a book. There is a difference to that, and also a difference when we actually put things into work and actually take our own action. That is when we start to see our own strengths, weakness, see things that we need to grow within ourselves as well, and also build as well for us to become a better person in our own terms. Mr. Jeff, I also want to use this opportunity to thank you for the opportunity for us to have this profound and insightful conversation. Thank you so much, Mr. Jeff.
I appreciate you. Keep on putting out the good work that you're doing. Thank you for the opportunity.
All right, Mr. Jeff. Have a wonderful day, Mr. Jeff. Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you. Take care.